Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Prime Minister Reuven Netanyahu says Israel will use all the tools at its disposal to fight against terror. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin says the Jewish state has no intention to change the status quo at the Temple Mount. NATO says it is prepared to send troops to Turkey to defend its ally after violations of Turkish airspace by Russian fighter jets operating in Syria. Another attack was reported today in Jerusalem. A Palestinian stabbed a 20-year-old Israeli in his neck next to a train stop at the light rail in the city. The victim was reported moderate to severely injured and was evacuated to a nearby hospital for further treatment. Security guards stationed at the train stop chased after the attacker, who tried to flee the scene and managed to capture him, following which they handed him over to the police. The violent scenes after 10 days of intensified clashes and attacks in which 4 Israelis and 5 Palestinians were killed, as well as 170 injured, have brought about a new reality in Israel, which up until recently stayed clear from the raging chaos inflicted upon its neighbors in the Middle East. Due to the surge in violence, Prime Minister Reuven Netanyahu canceled a planned trip to Germany, saying his government will make all tools and strategies available to Israel's security forces in order to battle what he referred to the fight against terror.
אנחנו עדיין בעיצומו של גל טרור. אנו פועלים בתקיפות נגד המפגעים, נגד פורעי החוק ונגד המסיתים. תגברנו כוחות ואנחנו מעמידים את כל האמצעים ואת כל השיטות הנדרשים כדי להיאבק בטרור הזה. במלחמה בטרור האזרחים נמצאים בחזית ונדרשת ערנות מרבית גם מהם. אני מבקש לשבח את קור הרוח ואומץ הלב שגילו אזרחי ישראל בימים האחרונים וגם ביום הזה.
Prime Minister Reuven Netanyahu stressed that the Jewish state has known harder times than the current surge in violence and will once again prevail against the current wave of terror.
המטרה של הטרור היא לזרוע פחד, והצו הראשון כדי לנצח את הטרור הוא לגלות קור רוח וחוסן אישי ולאומי. כבר ידענו תקופות קשות מאלה, וגם על גל הטרור הזה אנחנו נתגבר בנחישות, באחריות ובאחדות.
Meanwhile, in a bid to calm tempers, Prime Minister Netanyahu ordered his cabinet ministers and coalition Knesset members not to ascend the Temple Mount in the near future in order to prevent friction and inflaming tempers. The decision by the Prime Minister drew harsh criticism from within Netanyahu's government. In related news, President Reuven Rivlin said during a meeting with media crews in Jerusalem that Israel has no intention to change the status quo on the Temple Mount, in which only Muslims are allowed to pray, but called on Muslims to respect the Jewish connection to Jerusalem.
Let me be very clear. Israel has no intention whatsoever to change the status quo. But this status quo, this important understanding, needs 2 sides to keep it. When the leader of the Palestinian say that dirty Jews are spoiling the holy city, the world must speak out. Imagine what would be the reaction in such a thing said or was said about Muslims or Christians. We will continue to respect Muslims' prayers and at the side of the mosques and the shrine. But Muslims must respect the Jewish connection to Jerusalem.
The violent scenes in Israel and the West Bank are evocative of the 2 Palestinian intifadas, the Arabic word for violent uprisings against Israel in the late 80s and the early 2000s. Officials on both sides are playing down the comparisons, as the violence now is on a much smaller scale than then, but Israeli media outlets have declared that a third intifada had begun. Palestinian resident of Jerusalem claimed, however, that the rise in violence is not a third intifada, as most people just want to earn a living for their children.
اعتقادي لا، لأنه الشعب تعبان كثير، الشعب صار كل واحد يدور بس على اللي بده يعيشه، يروح كيف بده يطعم أولاده، احنا هيك شايفين.
Even though the violence has interrupted Israelis' daily lives, a Jewish resident of Jerusalem claimed she has no fear whatsoever.
I've lived here 32 years. I'm very safe here. I'm safer here than I was when I lived in America. I feel very comfortable here. It's a lovely place. I think people should move here. It's a lovely country to live in. You can grow personally and spiritually. I'm religious, and I have no fear whatsoever. I think people are lovely here. They're very nice people, and I think the government has to protect them as much more.
The White House expressed deep concern about the escalating violence in Jerusalem and the West Bank and urged both the Palestinians and Israel to restore calm.
The United States is deeply concerned about recent violence and escalating tensions in the West Bank and Jerusalem. The United States condemns in the strongest possible terms violence against Israeli and Palestinian civilians. We call upon all parties to take affirmative steps to restore calm and refrain from actions and rhetoric that would further inflame tensions in that region of the world. We continue to urge all sides to find a way back to the full restoration of the status quo at the Temple Mount and Haram el Sharif, the location that has precipitated so much of the violence that we've seen there.
Now, with regard to the conflict in Israel's northern neighbor, NATO said it was prepared to send troops to Turkey to defend its ally after violations of Turkish airspace by Russian fighter jets operating in Syria. A meeting by defense ministers of the NATO alliance are holding meetings in Brussels, with the Syrian conflict topping the agenda.
NATO is able and ready to defend all allies, including Turkey, against any threats. And one of the main reasons why we have increased the readiness, the preparedness of our forces, why we have doubled the size of the NATO response force, why we have established a very high readiness joint task force, why we have increased the efficiency of decision making, all of this is a response both to the challenges we see to the east, but also to the challenges we see to the south. And it has hosted
the comments made by NATO Secretary General were a first clear signal to Russia, in which the military alliance voiced its dismay to the intensified involvement by the Russian military in the Syrian conflict and the strong backing of Syrian President Bashar Assad's regime.
My concern is that the Russians are not mainly targeting ISIS, but they are targeting other opposition groups, and they are supporting the regime. And I call on Russia to play a constructive and cooperative role in the fight against ISIS, not to continue to support the Assad regime, because to support the regime is not a constructive contribution to a peaceful and lasting political solution in Syria.
Thank you for watching us. You can also watch us at TV7israelnews.com or TV7.fi. For any comments, please send your emails to israelnews@TV7.fi. For more updates from Israel and the region, please join our Facebook page at TV7 Israel News. Praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Jonathan Hessen. Have a Erev Tov, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.